Welcome in, everyone. This episode is Bounce of Thrones, the game of sports, luck, and legacy. I want to get started first with a little bit of NBA. San Antonio took control of the series behind a locked-in Victor Wembanyama, who dominated early in Game 5 with a historic first half double-double and elite rim protection that shut down Minnesota's offense. With the Spurs up 3-2, the Timberwolves now face their first elimination game of the postseason, needing Julius Randle's best performance and a refreshed Anthony Edwards to keep their season alive. How much of Minnesota's survival in Game 6 depends on solving the Wembanyama problem, and what adjustments, if any, can actually shift the matchup back in their favor? Minnesota's survival, it hinges almost entirely on finding ways to neutralize Wembanyama. That's how everyone has been focused on him since he came into the league. But here, his defensive impact, it seems like he's just found another gear to shift to, because his rim protection and his ability to blow up all the paint touches that Minnesota has, it's completely disrupted Julius Randle's efficiency and it forced the Timberwolves into a lot tough late clock offense. The only real adjustment that can shift the matchup is forcing Wembanyama into more space. So what they could do is they could use a little Edwards Randle pick and rolls, 5-out lineups, and of course, quicker decision making, things that you can do to pull him away from the rim and make San Antonio defend laterally instead of vertically. Can't go over the mountain. Oklahoma City closed out the Lakers behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's MVP level control, stealing the sweep as he returned early in the fourth and powered a 35-point performance to push the defending champs into the conference finals. Los Angeles Lakers, they now enter an offseason full of uncertainty. So they got Austin Reeves heading into free agency and LeBron James potentially having played his final game in purple and gold. So how should the Lakers interpret this sweep? How do you look at it? Was it simply OKC's dominance, or does it signal a deeper organizational crossroads that forces them to rethink everything from the roster construction to LeBron's future? I mean, Oklahoma City's sweep. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's an MVP. As I said, he had MVP level control. That dude is not normal. I know we call Wembanyama the alien, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's got to be alien 2.0. And the Lakers this offseason, this free agency with Austin Reeves, I got it. We said he was the third piece, but you got to look to see what else is out there. If there's an Austin Reeves with an amazing defensive ethic, and then we start to get into some measurables, higher jumper, and you start chasing free throw percentage or three-pointers, I think you got to look at that before you re-sign him. I don't think there's going to be a team out there that's going to bring him in to be their number one. So you're bidding against yourself. Cleveland tied the series behind a massive third quarter eruption from Donovan Mitchell, who dropped 21 in the period as the Cavaliers opened the half on a 22-0 run and got a combined 67 points from Mitchell and James Harden. Detroit's bench, they showed up, but the starters, they struggled badly, leaving the Pistons searching for answers as the momentum shifts back to Cleveland heading into Game 5. So I wanted to ask you guys, which version of Detroit shows up in Game 5? Are we getting the deep, balanced team from the 2-0 start? Or the ones whose starters were overwhelmed once Cleveland stars finally clicked? Cleveland, you you flipped the momentum by unleashing Donovan Mitchell in the third quarter. That 21-point explosion and the Cavs 22-0 run, that overwhelmed Detroit. And it showcased how dangerous the Mitchell Harden backcourt can be when both stars are rolling. I mean, James Harden's an all-time. So if Mitchell is delivering like that with what we know James Harden can do, you better pack a lunch. Now, Detroit, their bench kept them afloat. And I think there's some confidence to be gained going forward from that. So you could give some starters a little more rest because we know what we got in our bench. But starters, y'all struggled, man. Especially Cade Cunningham, his turnovers, Jalen Duren's quiet production. Game 5, a test of whether the Pistons can match Cleveland star power and regain control of the series. That's basically what it's going to come down to. New York overwhelmed Philadelphia with the level of cohesion and shot making that few expected, punctuated by a Game 4 performance that tied an NBA playoff record with 25 made threes and showcased a team peaking at exactly the right time. With the sweep complete, the Knicks now head into the next round looking far tougher and more battle ready than their regular season matchups against Detroit or Cleveland might have suggested. Are the Knicks simply riding a hot shooting stretch, or have they genuinely evolved into a playoff hardened team capable of dictating the terms against either Detroit or Cleveland? New York sweep, that was powered by elite cohesion and historic shot making, the likes of which may not be repeated, but capped by a Game 4 performance where the Knicks tied the NBA playoff record with 25 made threes. They look like a team hitting in peak at the perfect moment. Their dominance, it raises real questions for the next round because the version of the Knicks that we just saw looks way tougher and more playoff ready than anything Detroit or Cleveland faced during the regular season. The NBA community is mourning after Memphis forward Brandon Clark died at age 29, with early reports indicating a possible overdose and no signs of foul play as tributes poured in from the Grizzlies, the league, former coaches who remembered him as a beloved teammate and person. Clark's passing marks a heartbreaking end to a career defined by energy, humility, and resilience, leaving teammates, fans, and the broader basketball world grieving a life gone far too soon. How should the NBA and its players process a tragedy like Brandon Clark's passing? And what conversations about mental health, support systems, and player well-being does this moment force the league to confront? I'm going to say Brandon Clark's death is a devastating loss for the NBA and the community, as teammates, coaches, and the league remembered him not just as a high-energy player, but as a genuinely kind and beloved person whose impact reached far beyond basketball. The circumstances surrounding his passing highlight the human side of professional athletes and raises difficult questions about support systems, wellness, and the pressures players face behind the scenes. Jason Collins, the NBA's first openly gay player and a global ambassador for inclusion, has died at age 47 after a courageous battle with stage 4 glioblastoma, leaving behind a legacy that reshaped sports culture far beyond the court. Tributes from across the league highlighted his impact as a trailblazer, a unifying presence, and a symbol of courage whose authenticity changed lives. How should the NBA honor Jason Collins' legacy? And what does his life reveal about the power of visibility, courage, and representation in shaping the future of sports? Jason Collins' passing, that's a profound loss for the NBA and the global sports community. He leaves behind a legacy defined by his courage, his authenticity, and a decade of work advancing inclusion far beyond the court. His life and battle with glioblastoma highlight both his personal strength and the lasting impact he made as a trailblazer whose visibility changed sports culture for future generations. Cal Raleigh snapped his brutal 0 for 38 slump after taking teammate Logan Gilbert's advice to wash off the bad mojo, delivering 2 much-needed singles in Seattle's 10-2 win over Houston. His teammates' reaction and the lighthearted approach in the clubhouse, that underscored how keeping things loose helped Raleigh reset and finally find his swing again. Does Raleigh's slump-breaking moment show the value of clubhouse chemistry and staying loose during adversity, or does it highlight deeper concerns about the Mariners' offensive consistency moving forward? Cal Raleigh snapping his 0 for 38 slump after taking Logan Gilbert's advice. Yeah, that's about your circle, that organization, that clubhouse. That's exactly how it has to be, with a little chemistry, the humor. When your star is struggling, the last thing we all need to do is make it more uncomfortable. So that offense has been inconsistent, especially with his lack of firepower. But I think this proves that that team can weather the storm for the long run, as now they got to make a push for that playoffs. Catherine Legge will attempt to make history by becoming the first woman to complete the Indy 500 Coca-Cola 600 double, adding the NASCAR race to her Indianapolis 500 entry in a rare endurance challenge only 5 drivers have tried since 1994. At 45, Legge, she sees the feat as a chance to showcase what's possible through determination, even as the physical and logistical demands make it one of motorsport's toughest tests. Does Legge's attempt represent a turning point for women in motorsports, or does it highlight how much further the racing world still needs to go to create equal opportunities for groundbreaking moments like this? Her decision to do them both on the same day, I think at the age of 45, I think that's the best headline. I think her attempt underscores her personal determination and the rarity of the feat. Only 5 people have tried this since 1994, and none have been women. Boom. Mic drop. Girl, do your thing and walk off. The 76ers parted with Daryl Morey after 6 seasons and multiple playoff disappointments, choosing instead to retain Nick Nurse while Bob Myers steps in to lead the search. They're going to have to find a new head of basketball operations. With major contracts on the books and no conference finals appearances since 2001, Iverson years, Philadelphia is signaling a full reset in how the franchise will be built around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Does this front office shakeup give the 76ers a real chance to reshape their identity around Embiid and Maxey, or does it expose deeper structural issues that no executive change can fix? I mean, moving on from Daryl Morey after repeated playoff shortcomings, what's wrong with that? You're choosing stability on the bench by keeping Nick Nurse, and Bob Myers will take over for the search for a new top executive. Look, they have massive contracts committed to Embiid, George, and Maxey. The Sixers are signaling that a reset in roster building philosophy, as they're going to try to reshape a team that, I mean, hasn't broke through the conference finals in over 2 decades. Texas coach Steve Sarkisian escalated the SEC war of words by taking a shot at Ole Miss's academic standards, prompting quick clapbacks from Florida's John Sumrall and adding fuel to an already tense stretch of offseason drama. With Lane Kiffin's earlier comments about recruiting and campus perception still circulating, the rivalry-driven back and forth now has the conference buzzing ahead of spring meetings. Is this exchange just harmless SEC gamesmanship, or does it reveal deeper tensions about academics, recruiting narratives, and how programs try to gain an edge off the field? Yo, Steve Sarkisian, he escalated. He threw gasoline on the fire. That offseason drama in the SEC, yep, it's just gonna burn, baby. You took a public shot at Ole Miss's academic standards. So yeah, people are gonna clap back real quick. Other coaches, people are gonna weigh in. They're gonna pick sides. Lane Kiffin's earlier recruiting comments still circulating. Nah, none of this is going away, and this could spill over into the season. I'm here for it. Tage Thompson's fluke second period goal off of a bizarre bounce completely shifted game 4, giving the Sabres the spark they needed to erase Montreal's momentum and eventually pull out a 3-2 win to even the series, with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen shutting the door late. Buffalo turned an unlikely break into the turning point of the night. How much can a single lucky bounce reshape a playoff series? And does Buffalo's response in game 4 suggest they're better equipped than Montreal to handle the emotional swings of postseason hockey? Listen, that fluke goal, that flipped game 4. Buffalo has the momentum swing that they needed desperately, and Montreal surge. The series is even now. Combined with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's strong return in net, the Sabres turned one lucky break into a defining moment that sidelined doubt and steadied their emotions and changed the game's trajectory. All right. Let's talk about some NFL offseason questions. Why didn't Miami trade Devon Achane? Well, Miami sees Achane as a long-term foundational piece alongside Aaron Brewer and Jordan Brooks, not someone to unload during a reset. So unless a team offered a first rounder, which no one does for a running back, who will also soon need a big contract, they're not doing it. Miami believes extending him gives him more sense. It makes more sense than trading him. So that's why they did it. Why didn't Dallas extend George Pickens? Okay, first of all, Dallas wants to see Pickens repeat his production before committing big money, especially since they already paid CeeDee Lamb $34 million per year. So Pickens' past concerns about consistency and focus make the Cowboys cautious about locking in a massive contract after just one strong season. Why didn't the Giants draft Caleb Downs at number 10? New York was committed to using one of its top 10 picks on offense to support young quarterback Jackson Dart. And Francis Maigoa was their top offensive line target. They viewed Arvell Reese at number 5 as their defensive cornerstone, making it less likely they double dip on defense in the top 10. It was simple as that. Why didn't the Vikings trade J.J. McCarthy? Well, the Vikings have already paid most of McCarthy's rookie deal, and they wouldn't get close to the draft value that they invested back in the trade. They still hope that Murray's arrival pushes McCarthy to reset, develop, and keeping the door open for him if Murray doesn't stay healthy. That's the thing. Why didn't the Steelers push harder for a quarterback upgrade? The Steelers liked what they got from Rodgers last season, and they prefer continuity, even though he hasn't re-signed yet. Pittsburgh historically sticks with the status quo. They have stability over big swings, even if it means staying in the middle of the pack, and they will. Why didn't the Browns cut Deshaun Watson? Watson's $46 million salary is fully guaranteed whether he's on the roster or not, so cutting him provides zero financial benefit. With no clear replacement yet, Cleveland figures that they might as well see if he can give them anything before his disastrous contract finally expires. Why didn't the Texans extend C.J. Stroud? Stroud's late season and playoff struggles, including a season-endingly poor divisional round performance, that made the Texans want another year evaluation. And they can afford to do that because there's no major quarterback extensions out there anywhere. So Houston isn't under pressure to beat the market, and they can afford to wait. Why didn't the Seahawks give Sam Darnold a new deal after winning the Super Bowl? Well, they believe that he's already paid appropriately, and they refuse to give top-tier quarterback money to a non-elite quarterback. Their roster-building philosophy, avoiding oversized quarterback cap hits, is what they believe enabled them to build a championship roster. He signed that contract. They believed in him, and I don't think he's going to hold out. I think he's going to show up and play. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Why didn't the Rams draft more immediate help for 2026? Well, the Rams believe that they were a couple of bounces away from a Super Bowl last year, and they didn't see any major roster holes needing urgent fixes. If you think, put in the comments down below. Drafting quarterback Ty Simpson at number 13 was about securing life after Stafford, not chasing marginal short-term upgrades. Why didn't the 49ers trade Brandon Ayuk? Every team knows the 49ers will likely cut Ayuk before his $27 million salary becomes guaranteed. So no one is offering trade value now. San Francisco is in no rush. They can wait to see if a team gets desperate enough to offer a pick before releasing him.